Hey, welcome to episode 20 of the Learning React in 2021 series. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about programmatic navigation. So up until now, we've been doing nav links. All these are nav link elements that we're getting from React Router DOM. When you click on them, they'll take you to whatever the to attribute says. There's going to be situations, however, where you want to programmatically move from one place to another within your application. You want to change the routing without having to put a nav link somewhere and force a user to click it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to do a little bit more of the useEffect cleanup, and I'm going to show you how you can cancel fetch calls. So let's dive right in here. Last episode, we got this working so that if I was on one of these, the search bar would show up. If we're on the home, there is no search bar. So what we want to do now is we're going to focus on the search. And right now there's a couple of redundant things happening with the keywords and how we're searching with multiple levels of state and calling on the use location hook. I'm going to clean some of that up, simplify things, and I'm going to use programmatic navigation as the key to getting all this stuff to work. When the person searches right now, what we're doing is we're just letting the person search for whatever, you hit enter, and we're saving that inside of a state variable called keyword. But we're not seeing that. The user doesn't see that anywhere other than in the search box here. What we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to make that a query string value right up in here, because that's more of a typical approach. It also means that somebody could come to the website if they've got a link for searching for something. Maybe it's for people, and we're going to say search equals Luke. If this were an actual working query string, I could use that as a link and save that to go directly to search results where what should appear is this. So we're going to fix that right now with programmatic navigation. All right, so let's jump into our code. I'm going to go into the search bar, start right there. And right now what we're doing is we're calling this save search method whenever the form gets submitted. So here's the form down here. We call submit whenever somebody's filled out the form. It calls this, which is calling the function being passed down. And this is the function up inside of app that updates the keyword. I don't want to do that. I'm going to simplify this by removing save search from there entirely. I'm not going to be calling that inside of here. Instead, what I want to do is I want to do programmatic navigation. When somebody fills out the form and clicks submit, I want to just build a new route. I'm going to take whatever the category we're in, so people, films, planets, and I'm going to append $search equals whatever the person wrote here. So I'm going to build this URL and submit it, update it programmatically. So let's start with this. We're going to need to bring in one more thing here. We need the, from React Router DOM, not in there, but from React Router DOM, we need the useHistory hook. There we are. We have that. Now when we call this method, we're going to be getting an object back, a history object. Now this isn't the vanilla JavaScript one that you get in the browser, typically the window.history object. This is one being built by React Router. Now it contains most of the same stuff, but it has a few differences. One of them being a method called push. So another way that we can write this, just using destructuring, I'll comment out one of them. What I prefer to do in here is this. I just want the push method from inside of history. So we're using destructuring to grab the push method. And then inside of our submit, this is all we have to do. I have to call push, and I have to send in what is going to be the brand new URL. Now I don't need the domain or the protocol or the port or anything like that, just the part that comes after it. So just this part that starts with the slash people, whatever. So starting with a slash, I'm going to add in, we're going to call it the category. And then after that, search equals, and what's it going to equal? Well, it's going to equal whatever the person typed in the form, which we are getting with our ref here. So I'll paste that inside of there. There we go. Now we don't have category yet, but we're going to pass category into here. So this is going to be coming momentarily. All right, so we're no longer calling this method back up in app, so we can get rid of that in app. We do have to pass in the category. We need to know what the category is, which section of the website are we in. So that plus my search, that's what I want to send. I also have to be careful. You'll notice here I'm only putting the category. If I was doing something like this, I was in a category and then I went to the details page and I do a search, I don't want that number part. I don't want the full URL. I just want the people part of it. I don't want that number because I could search for something that doesn't include this detail. And if I do that, so we do a search for, let's say Darth, there's 2 of them. I click on this. Now, if I do a search for Luke, well, we've got Luke coming up, but we no longer had the person that was being passed in here. There isn't a number 2 person in this array, so this is blank. All right, so that's another thing that we're going to be solving here with this using of the query string and by not putting that ID in this URL. All right, so we're going to go back up to app. We need to pass in the category, so that first part, we're going to do that up there. And we no longer need the save search. So let's go back up to app. This is where we are passing everything in. Here's the search bar. We don't need save search anymore, but we are going to pass in something called category. And I'm going to do that right here as well. All right, so that category is going to be passed into both. We're going to use it in main too. But we've gotten rid of that function. So without that function, we can scrap it right here. So we're going to get rid of that function. And actually, I'm just going to rewrite this whole thing inside the useEffect. We're going to simplify this thing a little bit. So what we're doing now is from the search bar, we're putting something up into the query string. To get that thing out of the query string, right here, use location gives us the path name. It also gives us search. Search is the query string. So we're going to be getting that from this use location hook that we already had on our page. Now my category, what I want to do is I'm going to take the path name and split it apart on the slashes. So if we have something like this, there's going to be 2 parts. Both of them are empty. Something like this. The part 0 is empty. Part 1 has this. Or this version where it's nothing, planets, and 45 is part 2. I'm going to use destructuring here. And we've got nothing for the first one. Our category is the second part. And the ID is going to be the third part. So I don't need the 1 over here. I'm just going to do the split. This returns an array, which we destructure into these 3 variables, just like that. And now I'm going to save the category inside of here as the default value. This is the old page. And I'm going to rename this too, just to make this a little clearer. So we've got old page and set old page. Old page being the default value is what's the current thing that you're on when the app first loads. Then we can change it as we navigate between the sections. We'll update it and we'll say, okay, every time the page loads, what are we on right now? Then when we go to the next one, I can compare to say, okay, what was the old page? What's the current page that we're on? So the one that's coming from use location, that category, and old page, how do those 2 things compare? All right, inside of here, we need our category. We want to get the search, and we want the ID, and we want the old page. Those are the things that we're going to be looking at inside of our function right here. All right, inside of here, we have to deal with different situations. We have to deal with going from films to a brand new one, so when we're just changing the route, or if we're inside of details and there is a number there and we're going over to here, or I'm in one, I run a search, or I'm in details and I run a search. So there's all these different situations going back and forth between details, or if I'm in details and I want to restore the entire list. Right now, that one's not working. So that's one that we have to fix with our code right here. What we're going to do is we are going to, right here, we're going to compare the value of old page and category. So let's write this out. I'm going to say going from old page to category. Now every time this runs, we're going to get a message telling us where we're navigating from and to. Now if those two things are the same, if old page and category are the same, I know that I'm in a situation where I'm going between planets and planets 5, or planets 5 and planets. I'm going back and forth between one of these two states, or I'm on one of these two things and I'm doing a search within this. The else portion is, am I changing categories? So this is change. Well, we're going to see it from here. We've changed categories, so I'll just leave it as a comment here. If we're on the same page, this is what I need to know. Is there a search value? Is there something up in the query string? So I'm going to look for search. Because this search value that we're getting from useLocation, if there's nothing in the query string, that will be an empty string. So this if is never going to run. If it does, and I want to know what it is, I want to know what the term is that I'm searching for, so let's get that term. I'm going to take the search, and we're going to strip off the part that is the same at the very beginning. Every time there's something in there, it's going to start with this, and I'm going to replace it with that. That's what I'm going to do. So we've got a search for term, and if we've got a search for term, now's the time when I'm going to update the keyword. So I'm no longer calling the function from another component. It's all self-contained inside of here. We're doing, if you're on the same page and you've got a search term, you must be running a search. Therefore, we're going to set the keyword. If there is no search, okay, if there's no search being passed in, I don't have to update the keyword, but I might want to get rid of the keyword. I might want to clear out what the keyword is. There's only one situation where I don't want to clear that out, and that's what we have right here. If I've run a search and I've got something here, and I click on this to get the details for this one, I don't want to, when I click on this, lose my keyword and have the full list of details reappear. The search runs again and I get the full list. I don't want to do that. So we want to skip through that and say, okay, if there's no ID, that was the third part of the URL. If there is no ID, then, okay, I'm not in that situation where I'm going from the list of search results into a details page. And if that is the case, now I know I can clean out the keyword. Now, down here for changing the category, well, if I've gone from planets to films or films to people, any sort of change in category, I absolutely want to get rid of the keyword. I don't want to run the search in the new section with this. The other thing I'm going to do is I need to update the old page. So set old page equal to category. So save it. We've moved from one to the next, and there we go. Okay, so we have all those things working now. We're going to be passing keyword and category down to the search bar. This will be displayed in there if there is keyword. Category is going to be used for the routing. And inside of main, we're passing the category down into here. So inside of props, we now have category, which means I don't need location anymore. So we can strip it out of our import. So we're simplifying it, reducing some of the load. It's coming in through props. And then inside of here, I'm even going to simplify this if statement. I'm going to do it as a switch case statement. basically doing the same thing. So we're looking at category, and if I've got case people, I'm going to call set people. Now this is doing the same thing as before. I'm just doing it as a switch case statement. Okay, and in the parts that we need, there we go. So the dependencies required, category is now in there. We're using category and keyword and the 3 methods. That's all that we're using in here. We still have our scroll thing to fix the results and scroll back up to the top. Okay, so let's go through here and save all of these changes that we've made and try this out. I'll go back to home. I'll refresh to clear everything out. Okay, going from blank to blank. Okay, yeah, that's what we're doing. This is our timeout. It took too long to fetch something. Oh, and this is the Star Wars API. It's, for whatever reason at this point, so there was 3 of those. It's all 3 of the calls. So just as I'm doing this, every once in a while this happens. The Star Wars API becomes slow. Jumping between, and should be trying to get these things. And we've got our timeout that we created last time for our loading thing. So it gives up after 4 seconds and just displays the no people. Okay, hopefully this will, here, let me refresh this and see if it can do the fetch. No. Okay, I'm just going to pause and give it a couple of minutes for the API to come back up. Okay, so everything's working again now. So we're getting data back from the API. Free APIs, you can't really complain about free APIs being a little bit slow at times. So we're getting films, we're getting peoples. As we're switching between them, that's all working. We're getting the right thing. Going into a detail, yeah, that works, that works. Jumping to people from details, that works. Detail, jumping into planets, that works. Okay, so we've got all these things. Now let's try search. Searching for planets with 2 O's in them. There we go. We've got those coming up. If I click on planets, it should restore the whole list. That was something that wasn't working before. Now it is. Do it again. Search for double O's and jump to people. Okay. Now, that's the programmatic navigation. We've got, this is now building query strings, putting it up here, and we're using that to save the keyword state variable to pass down, and we're saving the category at the top level and passing it just through props. All right, now there is one other problem that we've got right now, and that is having to do with our API. So if we look in the comments right here, everywhere you see the use Star Wars, those are the comments coming from that page. So we did a search for planets with O. Then we did a search for all the planets, basically just restoring the list. Then we did again the same thing, planets with 2 O's. Then we clicked on people. And here's a problem. We did actually make a fetch call to go and get all the people that have 2 O's in them. And then right after that, another fetch call was made to just get the list of people. So that keyword was still there with the 2 O's when the fetch call was made. So it's happening really rapidly with the routing and the keywords being updated, the state variables being updated. We want to clean that up. So I'm going to use the cleanup function from useEffect, and I'm going to cancel my fetch call. Axios actually gives us the ability to cancel. We can cancel any fetch call that is made with built-in functionality in Axios, and then we can kill this extra call that's being made. So let's fix that. All right, we'll jump into our use Star Wars hook, and inside of here, what we have right now is we're running the search. We've got a timeout. We're going to add one more parameter inside of here. So inside of the params object that we've got, we want to add inside of here a property called cancelToken. And that's going to be set to new axios cancelToken. So that is a function. I'm going to save just to get this down on the next line. Inside of cancelToken, there's going to be a function that gets called. We have to pass in a function like this. cancelToken is going to give this one parameter, and that one parameter is going to be the function that gets called. It's the cancel function. How do I cancel this thing? This fetch call that I'm making. This is the method to do to call it. So if I just in here did this, it's going to cancel it immediately. I don't want to do that. I'm going to save it to use later. So let's create a variable inside of our useEffect. So there's my cancel variable. This is going to be the method. There we go. So the cancel method, we're putting it into our variable that's still inside the useEffect, but it's outside the axios call. So we've got this saved. So we can, at some point in the future, if we want to, cancel it. When do we want to cancel it? We want to cancel it for the cleanup, or inside the cleanup. Inside the cleanup, if you remember from last time, when you've got a useEffect, the cleanup function runs before a new copy of the useEffect runs. So if you're about to call useEffect a second time, it looks to see if there's something that's still running from the first one, and it will run the cleanup function. So inside of here, we return a function, and this function is what runs. Whatever function we pass back, this is the thing that runs if there's something still firing inside of useEffect the next time it gets called, which there very well could be. We saw in our comments that there was a fetch call being run for people with double O's before the full list request was put in. So down in here, what do I want to do? I want to cancel. I want to get rid of the old fetch call before a new one gets made. That's going to clean up the memory. It's going to clean up our network calls. It's going to save us data. Going to be much better. And then just to see that it is happening inside of the catch, I'm actually going to put a function inside of here. We can write a custom error message here. If axios is cancel and you pass in the error object, if this returns true, this method axios is cancel, you pass in the error object, it checks to see if that error object is the one created by doing this. So if it is, I'll do a console.warn. We'll just say canceled API call. Otherwise, it's just your everyday run-of-the-mill error, and we'll do a console.error for that one and write out whatever the message is. Okay, there we go. So we now have the ability to cancel a fetch call, and we're not doing it ourselves anywhere. It's not like we're passing this cancel method out as functionality to other things. We're not exporting that from this file. We're just using it here in our cleanup function. So that's what we're doing here in the cleanup. All right, let's clean all this up. Refresh, we've got our data. Now we'll do a search. We'll search for, nobody matches that. There we go, we have a match. There's Leah. So inside of here, Star Wars Axios People Leia. Now I'm going to click on Planets. And we will see Star Wars Axio Planets Leia, but then, and then the second one, Star Wars Axios Planets, but then we're going to see the cancel message to show that the first one was canceled. There we go. So Star Wars Axios Planets Leia, that's the one that gets canceled, and then Planets is the only one that actually gets run for us. Okay. Excellent. So that's it. That's programmatic navigation. That's Axios cancel. That's using the cleanup function. And that's simplifying some of the logic that we had for passing functions down to the search bar and passing Calling on the hooks like use location inside of main and inside of the search bar, we've simplified that by just simply passing the category prop down. Right, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll answer as many as I have time for. The code for this is in the GitHub repo. Branch is episode 20. And as always, thanks for watching.